right, who would you like to talk to next?
John in
Connecticut.
Ooh,
yes, this is another person who's been waiting on the line for a long time and has got me really excited. Thank you, V.
Mm-hmm.
John, you're live with Eric and V. What would you like to talk about?
Hi, I just want to thank you, first of all, for opening people's minds to the falsehood of religion. However,
all right.
You sound familiar.
Not faith. So, a hypothesis is dualism says that consciousness is the soul, and materialism hypothesizes that consciousness is from the brain. Now, by definition of supernatural, which is anything that is not explained by materialism,
okay, hold on.
Cannot be.
John. This
Yes.
sounds like a really good script. I just want to make sure that we're engaging with each other and are not sitting down to a lecture.
Mm-hmm.
So we're going to want to engage with you together on this. Okay? So when you talked about materialism, I definitely would agree with you. I do not believe that a soul exists outside of the consciousness that we're experiencing by having a brain that works. And the idea of dualism is that, yes, there's a ghost in the machine, that there's some kind of soul that is not included in the body.
Mm-hmm.
So I think we're on the same page there. But just wanting to make sure, are we good so far?
Yeah, I'm a little nervous, but I get that way.
Okay,
That's
worries. Okay, go
All right,
ahead.
we're on the same page.
Yeah.
Continue.
So would you agree that consciousness is supernatural by definition of supernatural?
If you're operating under a dualistic worldview, then sure. But the problem here is that we are not convinced of dualism, so we couldn't grant that consciousness is supernatural.
Yeah, using your definition of supernatural.
By supernatural is that anything not explained by materialism. So involving consciousness, it would be chemistry, physics, or neurology. None of these textbooks, I'm pretty sure that no textbook of these topics can explain consciousness. Therefore, it's supernatural.
Okay, so that is a fallacious appeal.
Mm-hmm.
Saying I couldn't find it, therefore my conclusion is correct, is not a good way of going about it.
So is there an explanation for consciousness in a textbook?
Actually, what you can ask us, and I can probably do a pretty good job of explaining consciousness to you, and I bet V could as well.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah. Is that a question you're asking?
Yeah, you could please explain how a brain cells, because the brain is made of brain cells. How can brain cells see, smell, or hear?
So
I can guarantee you that this is in a textbook somewhere. Just have to know where to look.
Yeah. So we are products of evolution, and we evolve over a huge amount of time. I mean, it is difficult. I would say it's impossible to really understand how much time evolution takes. And during that process of evolution, we are constantly moving towards adapting better to survive. And so to have sight is an adaptation that increases our survivability, right? Having gut bacteria and all of the intricacies that we have, each of those things have in their own way increased our survivability, including the cognition, right? Communication, language, what we have, those kinds of things are all a product of a shit ton of time. So if you want to talk about consciousness, though, I think you hit the nail on the head. You said sight, you said smell, you said taste. Those things are you're bundling all under this consciousness thing. Consciousness is the byproduct. It is the emergent property of having a brain. We know that by looking at brains that have been damaged or brains that are no longer working, and also by recognizing that we do not see consciousnesses.
I do not imagine a different way to say that.
Just to make the pedants angry, the conscious eye. Anyway, we don't see them outside of having a brain. That's just not a product of something.
Well, in a brain either. It's a material. You cannot find consciousness in the natural world. It's a material.
So that's a non sequitur. Please explain to us why it's a material.
Because you can't hold it in a jar. You can't. You can't find consciousness anywhere. You can find brain activity, but you can't tell if the lights are on, but nobody home. The natural world can carry on just fine using blind physics without consciousness, without an inner movie. Who's watching this inner movie? Do brain cells watch this inner movie?
Wait.
We're like 12 questions deep here.
Yeah, we've got to slow down. Let's slow down a minute. First of all, we can pretty much tell whether or not the lights are on through brain scans. So that is something we can do. We can also not hold physics in a jar. Are you saying that physics are also supernatural?
No, I would say physics would be more like an abstract noun, not a concrete.
So you're saying that only concrete nouns are part of materialism? I think you're fundamentally misunderstanding what materialism is.
Materialism is just that everything is made of matter and its arrangements. So in materialism, consciousness is non-essential.
I think we just jumped off the tracks there. Vi, do you want to ask him again? Because it being non-essential doesn't have anything to do with the question.
I want to make sure we're agreeing on a definition for materialism here, because while I agree with your initial statement that materialism does not allow for a dualistic explanation of consciousness, materialism is not the idea that only things with mass exist.
Okay. So how does materialism account for consciousness in a coherent explanation of it? How do brain cells make consciousness versus just blindly following the laws of physics and chemistry? Why am I a human living a human life and experiencing it versus being a human not experiencing it? How does materialism account for this extra puzzle piece?
Here, real quick, I just want to make sure that we're establishing this. Consciousness is an inherent property of sufficient complexity, very much like wetness. So you said, how do individual brain cells create consciousness? Because individual brain cells are not conscious. And to use that argument is, what is it, the fallacy of subtraction or addition? I forget which one it is. Composition, yes. So the idea here is that individual water molecules are not wet.
Oh, no, division, you're right, sorry.
Yeah. Individual water molecules are not wet, but you get enough of those water molecules together and it creates a property that we describe as wetness. Does that mean that materialists think that wetness doesn't exist? No, it means that we understand that it is an emergent property. And the same goes for consciousness. When you have a brain with a sufficient number of working brain cells, consciousness emerges, and it's a property. It is not a noun.
Well, how do I know that the material world is an emergent property of consciousness? Your analogy is a good one, but analogies are not proof. They're not explanations. They're not evidence. They're just analogies.
It sounds like, well, hold on a second. It sounds like you're being a sore loser here. Here's one more.
I've heard this all the arguments.
Here's one more. So I download a program onto my computer. Does that program exist outside of the CD?
On the hard drive. Data is material.
Wait, is the program immaterial?
But no, the program is data on a hard drive.
Hold on a second. Can you point to a single piece on that hard drive? I mean, really, it's just ones and zeros. I mean, where's the program, John?
So how does your analogy explain how consciousness is accounted for in materialism?
Hold on a second. I'm using your argument back at you. I'd really love to hear how you answer it. Show me where the program is in my computer. How do you get a program out of just ones and zeros? I can point at any spot on the hard drive and point to a single point of data and say that is not the program. Okay,
so physics explains that pretty well, but physics doesn't explain consciousness.
Okay.
Do you disagree?
I agree. That's a wonderful dodge. Let's try one more time. Can you point to a place on the computer and say there's the program? Or are you recognizing that the constituent parts required for that program to run is the program?
So you're saying the brain is a computer?
In that way, I think it's a pretty good analogy.
But physics can explain computer science. Physics.
Well, that's a non sequitur you might just have to live with there, buddy. Because if you actually study it, yes, computer science is an application of physics. You have to understand physics to be able to do these kinds of things. If you don't understand physics, there's no way that you're going to be able to move forward in its application. So
How do brain cells?
you should take that up with computer scientists. You should take that to a university because I think that you could stand to learn a lot about it.
Yeah, you can, but you can't go to a university and learn about consciousness from a brain.
Yep.
And I think we have wrung every last drop from John. John, take care, buddy.
Oh my goodness. You cannot taste things without a supernatural ghost in the machine. And no textbook will explain how you taste things from a materialistic standpoint. Checkmate, atheists.
Mm-hmm. I think it's time to thank our top 5 patrons.
I think so.
We have other amazing calls on the line, and we're really, really excited about it. I was actually going to say before this show, hey, we're not getting a lot of callers, and I'm really, really worried about it. And yet I look and I just see a lineup of amazing just people on the line to talk to, and I'm just so, so grateful for that. So cheers. Just shout out to our call screener today, right? Isn't it just Katie?
I think that she got some backup last minute.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah.
All right. Well, shout out to our call screeners. Y'all rock. And we also want to thank our top 5 patrons. I'm refreshing. Our top 5 patrons are Eric Tweet. By the way, somebody tweeted me and said, Eric, you need to tweet. And so I'm wondering if that is actually Eric Tweet message.
You're getting this message from multiple places now.
Damn it. Fine. Desert Heathen, Bethany P, Jay Friedman, and Ward Knipling. And because V likes to say it,
Dingleberry Jackson.
Thank you so much for your support. It is your support that continues to allow this show to go on. It costs money to have all of these people on the lines. It costs money to get the equipment to be able to put this out, and also to give the volunteers access to the programs necessary to make this happen as we're all working remotely.
Those supernatural programs that don't exist in real life.
Yeah, well, I'm that there are a lot of ghosts in my machine if that's the case.
We'll be shouting out those ghosts during the crew camp.
Well, including but not limited to Among Us, which is a game I still really want you to play.
Are you really outing me as someone who's never played Among Us on live air?
Oh, yeah.
Thank you.
You're welcome. I'm going to die later. Thank you so much. It's your support that allows us to keep going. We love you. Thank you.